Before I was doing that, I had my own e-commerce business.
Have you had these insecurities yourself when you started?
Every good life coach I meet has a life coach of their own. Now, before you want to take the next breath, there is a gap where you don't need a breath. So what I started doing was just reminding myself to focus on that gap and becoming fully present. The core law is, I am the universe.
Paradox being, on one side, I understand what you're trying to tell me. On the other side, my thought is, what if the other person does not have money? Because we go back to the time how things were difficult for you.
Right? When you're starting out, you have to first help yourself before helping others. Right. And it sounds selfish, but it isn't. So coming to the core of that, when somebody goes through a very tough experience, you really only have two choices. Choice number one, you can create a story of pity around it. You're amplifying your pity. It's pity, 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 pity. The second option is, you can build a story of inspiration.
Welcome to another episode of The Rise of the Superhuman, and today we have a really powerful human here. Well, what is interesting is this gentleman, he's had his own superhuman challenges and he's come down here to talk about his superhuman journey. And if you're wondering who this is, he is one of the best life coaches in the country. And it's none other than Ankit Neerav. Hi Ankit, so good to have you here.
Hey,
thank you so much for coming down. And I know we're, pretty much on a time crunch. You are here in between your flight taking off, and we're going to be thinking, am I going to miss the flight? But even if you do miss the flight, I promise to take you on another flight and get you back home. Yes, Ankit, so good to have you here. Thank you so much for coming down.
First of all, thank you so much, Asik, for inviting me and for the wonderful introduction. Thank you so much. So, should I introduce myself?
Yes, please.
Yeah. So, my name is Ankit Neerav, and I started as a life coach very recently. I mean, relatively recently, in 2020. And I have two mentors who I learned from. One is Tony Robbins, which you're very familiar with, done all his courses and stuff, and Eckhart Tolle for the more spiritual side of it. Yes. So I've invested quite a bit of time and money in my own training, and have been lucky enough to train over 120,000 people now.
Wow.
In online training sessions, webinars. We're just starting with offline. And I've also worked with over 600 people one-to-one as a life coach.
That's pretty cool.
And so, yeah, I'm here to provide as much value as I can.
It's pretty awesome. So what I'd like to know here, the whole conversation is going to be around how you have grown up as a superhuman and how life has evolved for you. Now, here's the first thing I'd like to ask you, because I'm sure this is a general objection, thought, question that you get. How can you are 29, 30, sorry.
I'm 31 actually.
31?
I know I look young. But
So, you're 31, and the question generally comes around, how can a 31-year-old be a life coach? Now, I understand that the journey that you had, people don't really compare the journey that you had, but it's more to do with the age that
absolutely.
you have. And how, can you take us through what it has been like to become a 31-year-old life coach?
So, by the way, very good question, because when I started, I wasn't 31. I started at 27.
Oh, wow. Yes.
Right?
So, I think that's pretty crazy,
Yeah, it's pretty good. 27-year-old life coach, right? The one thing you have to make people understand is, people say, oh, if you're a life coach, you should have had many life experiences.
Right.
Now, that's a limiting belief.
Correct.
Just like, if you want to go to a doctor, you won't go to a doctor who has had cancer.
That makes sense.
You want to go to a doctor who has experience of treating cancer, who's trained to treat that cancer. Right? You wouldn't go to a lawyer who is a criminal. You would go to somebody who is trained to handle criminal cases and who has that experience. So, just like that, as life coaches, we are trained to handle those problems. And yes, as I've had experience dealing with more people, like I've trained almost 600 people in one-to-one as a life coach. So that makes me good enough to handle whatever it is. So it's training and experience.
That's pretty awesome. Now, I want to go deeper into this part, because a lot of coaches, I'm sure, are going to be watching this as well. And there's a general insecurity that, like you said, a life coach has to have a lot of life experiences. And
when people consider that, I don't agree with that.
You don't agree with it. I get it. But I'm talking about a person who wants to become a life coach, a person who wants to become any form of coach for that matter. In general, there's a thought. Let's say if I look at Tony, at least this was my initial thought. When I saw Tony, I'm like, Tony is 60. 58, 59, and the stories that he shares in UPW, everything, him jumping off a chopper, him doing that, him doing this. I'm like, I have no such stories. I have no such experiences. I have no such incidents. How does somebody get themselves through the insecurity? First question for you is, have you had these insecurities yourself when you started?
Yeah. So that's number one. I had this because I actually had some credibility because before I was doing that, I had my own e-commerce business. And I straight out of college, so I got placements in companies like Infosys. I didn't go there. I did go there. I started my own e-commerce business.
You would have come down to Bangalore then.
By sort of training. Yes. So I didn't go there, and I started my e-commerce company, which I scaled from 2015 to 2019. We took it from 0 to over 1.5 crores per month in sales. Right?
Wow.
We were one of the leading category leaders on Amazon, Flipkart. We got awards and all of that. It was during COVID that it came crashing down because inventory-led business. You have so much capital, and a lot of it has to be borrowed capital, right? So when I started the life coaching thing, I could use that as a little bit of a thing that, I know how to run a business, or I have the mindset to grow a business from 0 to multiple crores, right? So that for me was comparatively easier than for somebody who would be starting from scratch, right?
Makes sense.
Even then, it was a brand new industry and field, right? So what makes you're selling this stuff online, what makes you good enough to guide me as a life coach, right? So you realize that you never really become 100%.
Makes sense.
I still meet people who will come to me with something I've never heard of before. It's only after grilling them I realize it's one of those basic problems. They've just quoted it in so many places, in so many ways. It looks something brand new, but it will still intimidate you the first time you hear it.
I'm sure.
Yeah. So it's like having the mindset that I'm ready to learn, and if I fail, if I make a mistake, I'll come back and follow up. There have been times when I was starting out, when people came to me with something, and after talking to them, I was blank. I don't know how to help them. So I would tell them, I will come back to you. I'll talk to my mentors. I will research and come back to you.
Oh, that's a good one.
Yeah. And you have to have that kind of confidence.
Right.
You can't put up a facade that, oh no, I'm a life coach, and give something or the other, which that person might then feel like, this is nonsense. Right? You can't do that. And that makes them respect me more. And when I did come back, I would come back with a proper solution plan. Yeah. You have to have that kind of mindset. I'm growing along with everybody.
That's good. That's such a great point that you mentioned, because for me, if I have to look at somewhere my own fears a little, is that if I have to go into this more personal space, I've been in the business space, I've been personally wanting to transition into this space, and one of the fears that I have personally is, what if somebody throws a challenge? Because if I watch I'm Not Your Guru, Tony Robbins, the kind of challenges that people come there with, I'm like, dude, I would not be able to deal with that if somebody told me that. And people go through a lot of things in life.
I know. I have dealt with people.
I'm sure you've dealt with it. And for me, one of the challenges that comes down is, I'm not sure if I'm ready to deal with that kind of a challenge myself.
So I think some of that comes from working on yourself a little bit. So one of the things I'll tell you is, every good life coach I meet has a life coach of their own.
For sure.
I have had a life coach for 2 years now.
Right.
And what that instills in you is the confidence that if I can overcome challenges in my own life, I'll figure out a way to help others. More than that, so you say, like, Tony Robbins has people like who are depressed and suicidal. I've had people like that who've come to me you saved my life. That's the end story, right? But when they came to me in the beginning, right? So it does feel intimidating. It will always feel like that. Right. And if you ask an experienced doctor also, when he gets a patient and it's life and death, they still feel nervous. Right. And the more you train, it's like an internship, and then you're taking somebody's support and like that. So in the beginning, you don't have to deal with those things. You can say, I feel like I'm not qualified to handle this. You should consult a therapist. You should go here and there. I did that for the first 1 year. I didn't deal with people who were clinically depressed. Right. And especially those who were on medication. Right. But as I got the confidence working with smaller challenges, and I understood better what those things are about, now I'm able to handle it very well.
That makes a lot of sense. That makes a lot of sense on how one should grow.
Yeah, I think both of those come around being very honest, not putting up a facade that, oh, I'm the ultimate guy. There are things I don't know. I'll guide you in the right places. What I don't know, I'll send you to somebody.
Right. That's it. Pretty awesome. And for me, one question that I've personally had, which I thought I'll ask you in this podcast anyways, is you have a very, very calming energy. Like, how does that happen? Do you do something for it, or have you worked on it towards it, or I would just like to know.
So I'll give you one hack, and I'll give you the mindset. Right? So it's about working at the spiritual level, right? One of my favorite spiritual books is from my mentor Eckhart Tolle, right? It's called The Power of Now. Anybody who hasn't read it, you get it today, you start reading it, right? And so that's where the mentality, the mindset will come from, being peaceful and detaching from reaction, right? And just being. The whole book is about being present in the present moment and not getting attached to. It's like detachment and presence. So that's one thing. Now, if I give you a hack, when I actually trained myself, I did this for around more than 3 months.
Oh, that's pretty awesome.
So one of the things in spirituality is you have to find the gap between what keeps you attached to being a human. Right? So your brand Superhuman is fantastic, right? So one of the ways I also teach people to become superhuman is when I teach them to hold their breath. So within 30 minutes, I'll train them to increase the breath hold time from like 30 seconds to 2 minutes or even 3 minutes. You can hold your breath, right? Now, when you hold your breath is something that is constantly attaching, like your soul self, to this physical body. That's a bond. Right? So, a certain segment of spirituality is all about detaching from that bond. And you will find like yogis, for example, your heartbeat, it's constantly going on. There are yogis who will just practice lowering their heartbeat. So you detach from that bond. And if you can hold your breath for a long time, if for a certain amount of time, you can't, you're not directly breathing and connected to the body, you are detached, right? Not just from thought. So these are levels in which you are bound to the body. So coming to the point, when I take a breath, right, if you just breathe right now, so if you inhale, right, you can do it. If you inhale, now before you want to take the next breath, there is a gap where you don't need a breath.
Oh, yes.
Yes. So that is the gap where you're kind of free.
Okay.
Right? You're not fully attached. So what I started doing was just reminding myself to focus on that gap and becoming fully present.
Okay.
You can actually install an app. It's called an hourly chime. How is that pronounced? CHIME, right?
Chime,
yeah. So it will give you a ring every hour. I did it for 15 minutes. So every 15 minutes it would go, the sound would come, and I would just take a breath and I would focus on finding the gap between my breath. It brought my mind out of everything else into the present moment.
That's a great point.
Yeah. And I challenge everybody to do this. If you can do this for 3 months, you don't even have to do it for 15 minutes. Do it once an hour, right? Within 3 months, you'll find yourself being so calm because you're always in the present moment.
Oh, wow.
So that's the secret, and this is the method to get there.
So if I have to, reiterate the exercise. So every hour you remind yourself of detaching, the concept of detachment, and then you take a deep breath in, and you let it out, and you hold on to that breath. So before you breathe in again,
you don't have to force anything.
Okay.
Automatically, when you take a breath,
and when you naturally want to breathe the next time, you let it happen, but just focus on the gap.
On the gap between, just find the gap between your breaths. That's all there is.
Okay, that's pretty awesome.
You don't have to hold the breath. It's just finding that gap. So it brings your full attention to your breathing. It takes your mind away from the past and the present, and I'm missing my flight and all that. Right? And if you're fully present, the more present you are, the more calm you are.
Okay, so we have no problems on missing the flight today. That's been established. But that's a good point because, I used to do this hourly thing, but for the exact opposite of what you're saying.
I know, you're talking about the triad? Tony Robbins triad? That's for state mastery.
Yeah, so every hour I would, pump myself up, get myself out there. A lot of people ask me, how do you have a lot of energy,
I
asked you, how are you so calm?
So I can add to that. This in a way is a triad. You change your physiology, focus, and language, right? So obviously when you're breathing, you'll get into a calm physiology. Or you can actually apply the triad to this. You get into a physiology of calmness. You could sit in a yoga posture, right? And you could shift your focus to something that is calming. For example, when I went to Goa, I was on the beach and I had the wind blowing through my hair, so you become calm. So physiology, focus, and language could be, I am the universe, I am peaceful, something like that. You can apply that also, it works. Right. This is just a more spiritual meaning to the whole thing, and the idea is to become fully present.
Super, that's pretty awesome. So now that we are into this conversation, I'd like to tell you about my eavesdropping skills that I've had. The other day while at dinner, I think yesterday we met, day before yesterday when we were out for dinner, I was sitting in between you and the other guys, and I was constantly, shuffled between the two. On one side, the conversation that you were having was so interesting. On the other side, these guys were talking to me, and I was constantly shuttling between the two. Okay. So you were talking a lot about manifestation, and that's the space that you are in, right? If you were to, take me through a journey into manifestation, how would that look like? Because that's a concept that's very new to me.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll start with the most basic thing. First of all, I am productivity and manifestation. That's what I teach, right? Okay. And what I teach is very practical implementation of manifestation. Super. I don't like to get into too much magic and stuff like that. And all of that is valid. I'm not invalidating that, but I just like to hold on to the implementable stuff. Makes sense. So, one of the laws, the most famous law of attraction is what? अगर किसी चीज को सच्चे दिल से चाहो या शाहरुख खान डायलॉग सारी कायनात तुम्हें से मिलाती है. That's a derivation. That's not the core law. Okay. Right? Although it is the most famous law. Paulo Coelho said, if you truly want something, that becomes true if you hold the core law true. So what is the core law? Where should you start from? The core law is, I am the universe. Right? And this is not something new. The moment you say, I am the universe, by the way, this has been there in our Upanishad, in our Indian Upanishads. There are 4 Mahavakyas. Okay. One of the Mahavakya is Aham Brahmasmi. That means I am the universe. So it's been there for thousands of years. It's just how you look at it. So if you look at it today with the lens of law of attraction, the moment you say I am the universe, the law of attraction now becomes true. Right?
Right.
By the way, should you accept that I am the universe? Apart from science, my spiritual gurus are saying it, Upanishad is saying it, law of attraction coaches are saying it. What about science, right? If I look at the chemistry of your body, right? The whole universe is trying to tell you, you are the universe.
Okay.
For example, the most abundant element in the universe is hydrogen.
Okay.
The most abundant element in the human body is also hydrogen.
Right.
You're 70% water, H2O, 2 atoms of hydrogen, right? Second most abundant in the universe is oxygen. Second most abundant in the human body is also oxygen.
Okay.
Right? Third most abundant is helium. It's not present in the human body because it is non-reactive. And then carbon, fourth, human body also third most abundant is carbon. What I'm trying to show you is you are special not because you are unique and different. You are special because you are exactly the same as the universe.
Now, here's where, sorry to cut you off here, here's where I have a challenge, and I'm sure a lot of people will have the same thought. When I say I am the universe, the first challenge that I have is in believing it.
Okay.
Now, you, of course, gave me
I can give you the biology, chemistry, physics,
this,
all of that.
The similarity between how the universe and you are. Okay, now that convinces me to a small point. Okay. But there's another challenge that I have. When you said you are special, I'm like, but she has the same thing. He has the same thing. You have the same thing. How does that make me special?
So your first limiting belief is, when I'm saying you are special, it means compared to others, I'm special. That's what you are thinking. Right? I didn't say that.
Okay.
I'm saying every one of us are one and the same.
Yes.
When you say I am the universe, that's not her, that's you.
Okay.
You are the universe. There's no, let's dive a little deeper.
Right.
So there is two paths to spirituality.
Okay.
Right? One is, and both revolve around there just being you being the universe. One way of looking at it is, it's just me.
Right.
I am the universe. Everything and everybody else is fake. So it's a generation of my mind.
Okay.
Right.
Okay.
If you believe that, which is a valid point of view, you're like, it's just me. Everything is temptation. Everything is material. Everything is invalid. I will go to the Himalayas. I will meditate there. I will attain self-actualization. That is a valid spiritual path. People do that.
Right.
The second spiritual path is, I am the universe, which means everything and everybody is me.
Okay.
Right?
Okay.
So, and there are gurus like that. For example, Sadhguru. Everything and everybody is me, so I will serve everybody without any, personal, selfish, demands. Right? So that kind of a spiritual guru would just consider everybody as themselves. So we are all one and we serve without any selfish reasons. So those are both valid paths.
Now I have another question. Now let's go to the second path, because the first path, none of us are going to the Himalayas and let's go to the second path. Now I am the universe and everybody is a part of me, and I'd like to serve everybody.
Exactly.
This is where I feel a lot of people have questions around money, charging money, taking money from people. How does that work?
So I'll give you the logic behind it. When I charge money, it's to, there are two reasons. So first of all, the purpose of money is to give gratitude.
Okay.
That's the only purpose of money. You get something, you give thanks.
Okay.
It's a signal of gratitude that I appreciate what you gave me. Some people give money without gratitude, right? But that's okay. The purpose of money is to give gratitude, right? So if I am receiving gratitude, if I am receiving money, I can then spread that around in many different ways.
Fair enough.
Right? Now, somebody is saying, I don't feel like I should charge money. It feels wrong. Are you going to misuse that money firstly? If you are going to use that money correctly in your life, then you are a good custodian of that money. And that will enable you to do more of what you're doing, help more people.
Got it.
Right? So you should be proud, because see, one more thing I'll add here. I'm going a little deeper. The flow of money into your life is directly proportional to the value that you provide.
For sure.
Right? Whether you're in a job or a business, right? You become more valuable, the flow will increase, which means all the money you have got is through the value you have provided, or your parents have provided, right? Which means you earned it, right? You shouldn't be ashamed of it. You shouldn't think about charging more or less. But whatever value you provide, you should charge that much, because then that will enable you to help more people.
For sure.
Right? So the question then there is the other part of it. This is the first one. The second point is, when we charge something to somebody, they take it more seriously. They will come and attend. When it comes to life and self-development, you get what you expect. Right? If I give you free advice, you'll treat it like free advice. Right? Although it may be the most powerful thing in the world. When you pay 15,000, now you have to get value. You will apply that more seriously. You will get better results. You will pay me 6 lakhs. You come with a one-to-one, as a one-to-one coach, and you'll ask me these things. I'll guide you through those processes. I'll be more one-to-one, but the information is still the same. You will take it so seriously. I have to do it. You won't listen to your wife. You listen to me, because now you've paid 6 lakhs. So it's your level of commitment that increases when I charge more.
That makes sense. I get that. The only, it's like a paradox here.
Yeah.
The paradox being, on one side, I understand what you're trying to tell me.
Yeah.
On the other side, my thought is, what if the other person does not have money? Because what happens is usually you go back to the time you started. You go back to the time how things were difficult for you. And when you see another person there, one is you instantly connect with the other person. You empathize with the other person. And you somewhere understand what this person is going through.
Exactly.
And then you realize this person actually genuinely does not have money.
Yes.
How does that still apply?
So let's talk about it in the larger context. When you're starting out, you have to first help yourself before helping others. And it sounds selfish, but it isn't. In the airplane, when the oxygen mask drops, they say, no, first put it on even before helping your children. Because otherwise you're not capable of helping your children. You will faint, lack of oxygen. If you don't have money in your life, you're not fully satisfied, you won't be able to help more people.
Makes sense.
Right?
Makes sense.
You are priming yourself for helping more people when you are making money.
Right.
More people will benefit for you when you are happy, when you have made money.
Right.
That's the first way to look at it. The second thing is, once you start making money, you can then use that money to serve those who cannot afford you.
Right.
That's exactly what I'm doing now. For example, this year, one of my biggest goals, I used to never do free things. Even something which was free, I would charge at least 99 rupees. Right? And I still do that stuff, like 1500, 2000, small little price points where we can get almost everybody in. But I now also do completely free webinars. I started a completely free newsletter that goes out to like 60,000 people every week in a value. So now I can afford to do that because first I got the money. Yes, now I have a team who can serve those people. You can sign up for my newsletter and 10 years from now, you'll still be getting value every week, right? I can afford to do that because I first earned the money.
That makes a lot of sense. That makes a lot of sense. In fact, we've just recently started doing that ourselves as well. We started this 750 rupee 3-day event, which was pretty crazy. Now coming back to the topic. So first we went into the two parts of spirituality and then we got deviated and landed up here. So let's go to the second step.
Okay.
So you were continuing on that journey.
Yes. So what I was saying was, now you are everybody, right? I am you, you are everybody. So I'll give you an example. It's my favorite story to share on this topic. So Dr. APJ Abdul Kalam, he had come to my school. I was in DPS Arkipuram, right, in 11th and 12th. So he had come to our school. Our principal's book was being launched. And he told us a very interesting story. So he was the youngest of a few brothers. And his eldest brother was 94 years old. Right, at that point. So he says, so one of the brother's children was going to give the IIT exam. Right. And he goes to the eldest, like his Chachaji, like the eldest brother of Dr. APJ Abdul Kalam. And he knows that person is very religious, he prays. So he says, please pray for my success in the IIT exam. And that person who truly is, very spiritual and he understands, that the fact I'm doing, he says, I won't just pray for you. I'll pray for everybody who's sitting in the exam to become successful. That is the spirit. He doesn't understand that everybody cannot be successful. It's a competitive exam. But look at the spirit. That's his own relative, like his son. And he's saying, I'll pray for everybody because, it's all me. It's all us. We are not different. I am not. Another example would be, for example, when I say, I hate you, where is the hate?
It's from me, yes.
No, I'm saying I hate you. In my mind, I feel like you should feel hate. I'm feeling the hate. It's inside me. Right?
It's inside me, man.
So if you have hate, or by the way, you have love, it's all here only.
That's nice. That's a nice way of looking at it. Right? When you say I love you, it's inside me.
The other person may not love you, but you are filled with love.
Right. That's a good point. That's a good point. So, so we were coming back to the manifestation part. So we spoke about what spirituality is and the two parts and how you are the universe. So you were saying that's the first thing to understand.
That's the first thing to understand because once you accept that with these examples, with practices, with a little bit of science, right? So at least what you would understand is science does not go against it. It might provide you some clues to it might be true that you are the universe. It doesn't argue with that fact. Like physically, chemically, even physically, the atoms in your body can be traced to other stars where it was formed. So we're truly universal beings, not just matter from the planet Earth, right? So I can just go on and on, but let's stick to that. So let's say you assume I am the universe. That's true.
Right.
The moment you say I am the universe, then the law of attraction becomes true. Because see, this is me. Everybody knows. As a child, this physical person is Ankit, right? So let's look at myself. When I have a desire, when my mind has a desire, right? So my mind goes, simple one. Let's say I want to drink water. Right. The moment my mind has a desire, I want to drink water, what will happen? My eyes will start looking for water. Yes. The moment I find the water, my hands will help me grab the water and I'll take a sip of it. My lips will help me drink the water. So the moment I have a desire, all of me springs into action, conspires to help me fulfill the desire. So the moment I say I am the universe, obviously I will help myself achieve whatever it is that I want.
That makes sense.
Makes sense. And that's the true universe because you are the universe coming alive through this body.
Okay. Okay.
That's who you are, right? We feel like we have come from somewhere else. Now we are experiencing this universe. You are the universe itself coming alive through this body, right? When you have a desire, you are the universe. Obviously, you will help yourself get it done.
Right. Right. Okay. So if somebody has to bring this down into their life, what would they have to do?
Yeah. So one of the things is, now people say, what is the universe listening to? How does the universe decide what should come into my life? So one thing is, the law of attraction is always working. People don't understand this. They say, I want to use the law of attraction. It's always working. Like gravity is always working. No? If I lift up this cup and leave it, it'll always fall. Law of attraction is always working, which means every single moment of your life, you have attracted and manifested.
Right.
All right. So including the good things and the bad things, the not so good things and the average things.
Right.
Now, what decides that? It's your emotional state. Now, I'm going to make a leap. I'm going to do oversimplify something.
Yes, please.
Just for the sake of understanding. When people use the word vibe, they refer to your vibration. Right. So when they say vibe, you have a very positive vibe, negative vibe. They're referring to your emotional state only. Right. So your emotional state is your vibe or vibration, and here is the leap, your frequency. Many people will agree on that, and their arguments are valid. Just for the sake of simplicity, I'm saying your emotional state is your vibration or your frequency.
Correct.
Right? And that's exactly what the universe is listening to and giving back to you in more abundance. Right? For example, if you are always in a positive state, right, in a strong, powerful state, that comes back to you in more abundance.
Okay.
One way of looking at it is, universe will give that to me in more abundance. The other way of looking at it is, I will only decide, no, because I am the universe. So whatever I'm feeling, I'm getting.
Right.
For example, one day you wake up, right? Let's say you hit your toe at the corner of the bed, right? And you get into angry, frustrated state. Many times that will happen. That frustration within you, it amplifies throughout the day. You go in the traffic also, you will get stuck in a traffic jam. You get more angry, more frustrated. You in the office also, you'll have a fight with your colleague or your boss. You get more angry, more frustrated. By the night time, you're like, this is the worst day of my life, man. Whose face I saw when I got home, right? It's because you started with a negative state. You attracted those negative situations, negative people and all of that.
Right.
If you had started with a positive state, even while being stuck in a traffic jam, you would have noticed, that guy's t-shirt is amazing. Yes. Right. The dog's, ears are hanging out of the window. You understand? So you are attracting those positive situations, positive people. Those are there for you to see.
Right.
But your mind is not attracting it. It's filtering it out because you are commanding. No, you are the universe. I am negative. This is what I want. That's what the universe will do.
That makes sense. That makes a lot of sense. I'm so glad that you shared that. Now, I have a question for you. So since you teach this and you follow this and you are constantly in the state of action and acting on this, the theory that you talk about. Is there a point, or do we assume that Ankit never gets upset?
No, please don't assume that. So here's the thing. It's
because sorry to cut you off. The reason I ask you is because when people think about positive thoughts, and people think about manifestation, and whatever you think manifests into reality, there's a sudden fear that comes in saying, if I'm thinking of something negative, because let's say life situation also happens, right? Let's say something goes wrong in your life, life situation happens, you start fearing so much more because of this whole theory itself, and this is what I'd like to understand.
So first thing is, you have many tools to break that pattern, right? So you're thinking sadness, you can use like a triad, like you teach, or you can use simple meditation to break out of that. Take control of your state. That is one of the biggest secrets to being successful, right? Mastering your own state, which is raising your vibration basically. Every time you're practicing the triad, you change your physiology, focus, language, you've raised your vibration.
Correct.
I can call that a manifestation practice. I teach that also. Right. So the thing is, any emotional state, we are very prone to spiraling. You never hold stable. You're either going upwards or downwards. So it is absolutely normal when you are fearful, you will move downwards.
Correct.
So the question that you asked, right? Should I be fearful or not? The answer is, even if you are, the practices will get you to recover from it quickly. For example, you asked that question, do I never get stressed? I do. 7 years ago, if I had that stress, I would think about it 6 hours during the day, and over the next 3 weeks, 2 hours every day. Right? Typical person. I'm working also. That Ola driver was so rude, man. Next time I see him, I will say this. You're playing the scenarios in your head.
Right.
So that is also trauma.
Right.
Trauma is an overused word, but something negative that is causing you to be in a negative state is all trauma.
Right.
even somebody was rude to you last night, there's still some trauma in your head.
Right.
So the idea is, it's not that I will never get into that state. It's that now, instead of extending it for 3 weeks, yes, I'm able to overcome it faster.
Makes sense.
Right? Somebody is rude to me. Now it takes me 7 minutes. Right? I will understand the purpose behind it. The more spiritual you get, the more easy it is for me to forgive them.
Makes
right?
sense.
And I will not think about it in the negative sense ever. Next time also I think about it, I will think about them with kindness. Yes. So somebody was rude to me, right? I was kind to them. Maybe they understood. So I'll give you an example, right? This is not to show off, but this is to give an example how I handle a negative situation.
Right.
So somebody had sent me a cake, right? It was my son's birthday. So, and they didn't give the exact location. So the Zomato guy was getting very angry on the phone. I was trying to explain to him, come here. The location was wrong from their end, right? So, and he was shouting and all of that stuff. So he came, it was raining, by the way, and he was very irritated, and anybody would be. So he came to the home, and when I went down, he was in a very confrontational state. He was looking at me, and I took the cake, I pulled out 100 rupees. I was like, "Bhaiya, raincoat to kharid lo yaar, you're getting wet." Right? And he didn't know how to behave. Right? So he kept that, and for a moment he was just standing there, and he was like in a state of shock. And then he went away. I don't know what he processed.
Right.
But the gratitude I had was, at least this will show him something that, maybe I should take a more patient approach. There are good people in the world. Maybe I shouldn't get irritated with people. People make mistakes. So I had an opportunity to teach somebody that. Right? Now, for example, that's not what everybody has to do. Let's say you reacted to him. He came, you fought, right? And then, he learned, maybe you won. Yes, you beat the guy, right? And that guy learned a lesson, right? So one of the things, this is also there in the Bhagavad Gita to a certain extent. You were a vehicle in them making progress on their journey. Right? So whether they learned, they won, lost, doesn't matter. They went through that experience, which would change them as a human being. Yes. And they would probably grow and become better at some point. Or maybe they need to go through more pain before they become better. But you were an instrument that allowed them to get there slowly. Right? So I have gratitude for that. Like in Krishna's plan, which I would say if I'm reading the Bhagavad Gita, or the universe's plan, I could be an elemental part. I could be necessary part. Right? But to get there with that mindset, it will require practice.
This is where I was asking you. So a recent conversation with a friend of mine I was having, and one of the things that she stated, it stuck with me, and I think you're the perfect person to ask this. Sure. She told me, Swastik, so my dad is admitted to the hospital now.
Okay.
And she very strongly believes in manifestation, and she somewhere manifests having met me. So many of these things that she manifests. And her question was, so for the last few weeks before he got admitted to the hospital, I've been feeling a little uneasy about his health.
Okay.
And he has been a little unhealthy for a while now, and he's been going through something. So she said, I was feeling a little uneasy about his health, and now somewhere I feel like I manifested this for him. And she suddenly she felt that she was responsible for him being admitted in the hospital, and she was feeling very guilty. And suddenly she sprung on a lot of terminology. Then she started reading more about it and how she could have manifested it. And I feel it becomes a spiral, and it can very easily pull you down. And when you start taking responsibility for something like this, where let's say if something goes wrong in your life, and this is one instance. The other instance is yesterday, I saw one of my friend's dog pass away.
Okay.
Right? And the minute I saw that picture, the first thought that came to my mind is, my dog is 9.
Okay.
She's been a little low. She's been a little low for a while. And I was just having a conversation with Ramya, and I was telling her, shit, did you know Scott passed away? And so many of these things that run through your mind. And when you know all of these concepts, and when you know how manifestation happens and how you manifest everything in life, I think you can personally go on a dark side.
You can. So I'll give you one trick, like a shortcut to it, right? And I'll tell you the deeper thing behind it. So the shortcut is like that I actually learned from what should I say, like the Indian culture, superstition and things like that. So they say, when you have a dream about somebody dying, their lifespan increases.
Okay. That's a nice, this one.
Yes. I believe that. You should believe that too. If you had a thought about a dog passing away, you should think now our lifespan is going to increase. Yes, my grandmother used to always say that. And many people would relate to this if you've heard this from your parents, right? So that's the shortcut to it. Right?
Train your mind to believe
and it is true. I mean, because what you believe becomes true.
Correct.
So we can have a different conversation on that.
Right, that makes sense.
Right? So all your beliefs about yourself and the world are self-fulfilling. Right?
I have this trick for a cat.
Okay.
Because for the first part of my life, anytime a black cat crossed in, or any cat crossed in for that matter, I've seen everybody in my family get out of the car and talk about how things have been bad because a cat crossed in. So I have a very strong belief about a cat that anytime a cat crosses in, I show Ramya, oh, cat crossing, today is going to be great. So it's always worked out that way. Now I look for cats to cross. Now that's the other challenge.
Exactly. Awesome. I'll give you an example from now on. Yes. That what you believe becomes true.
Right.
You are the universe. Who else is going to decide?
Right.
So
who else is going to decide?
Yeah. So that's the way to look at it. That's the shortest shortcut. All right. So the other way to think about it is when you're talking about manifestation, right? So I thought of it. I manifested it. Again, you've separated yourself from everybody else.
Right.
Now you're not behaving like you are the universe, right? Right?
Yeah, misbehavior.
Yeah. So now, again, if you get back to that fact that I am the universe, it means the universe as a whole made this happen. Okay. And because I am still the universe, even though I can't blame, I shouldn't blame, because blame is pointless, I can take the responsibility of correcting this. Which means now it is even more important for me to actually visualize him coming back and actualize him. I use the term actualize a lot, which means behave as if it is already happening, right? So actually set up his home and all of that, what he'll come back and do, book his appointments at the salon, like go full on, like this is happening, he's coming back. And very often it manifests like that.
Right.
So it's not to blame yourself, but it's to take the responsibility to move in the right direction.
Got it.
Right. Now, I'm going a little bit deeper, but this might help a lot of people. Some people may say that people die, right? And my manifestation didn't work. Or what happened? See, here's the thing. You didn't decide where you were going to be born, which family to what people. So what makes you decide, that you can decide whether somebody should die or not? Right. So when somebody passes away, the pain is real, right? But the suffering is optional. And I'll tell you why. Because losing that person, you always say, they are now in a better place. If somebody goes to a better place, you should be happy for them. Right? You're being sad for them because you're selfish. You're saying they should be with me than in a better place.
Right.
If you're my friend, should I be in heaven having a great time, or should I be stuck in the traffic of Bangalore?
When you put it in context of Bangalore traffic, everything makes sense. So I think all life lessons should be put in context of Bangalore traffic. But I like that. But the challenge that always is there is it's always a paradox. Everything is a paradox. On one side,
no, I'll add to it a little bit more just to complete that thought. It's not just that you're being selfish, right? You have to realize that the pain is real and they've gone and all of that. And you have to let them go, kind of. That is the whole process of the 5 stages of grief and all of that. But by default, you're assuming that somebody dying is bad, and that's the problem. Right? Dying can be good. In our Indian culture, when somebody passes away, we give a feast. It's never been a part of Indian culture to consider it a bad thing.
Makes sense.
Right? They are going towards moksha. It is supposed to be a good thing. It's for our personal connection with them, for our own selfish thoughts, we create suffering in our head by repeating it.
Right. But that's always there, right? So the thing is, all disappointment is a result of expectations. The root cause of it, could you say, is expectation?
No, I won't say that. Now that's again another thought I'd like to challenge. People say, don't have expectations, you will have disappointment.
Right.
No, please have expectations. Expectations is the secret to manifesting.
Okay.
I have to expect it like an order on a menu.
Okay.
Right? I ordered biryani and raita, it's going to come.
Right.
In a restaurant, you take it for granted.
Right.
It'll come
See,
in.
but here's where I have to challenge you.
I'll tell you.
One second. Yeah. You said biryani and raita.
Yeah.
Now I want biryani and raita to come. But let's say he gave me pulao.
Yeah, exactly. I'm going to tell you. I'm going to tell you everything. Right? See, so what I'm saying is, you are saying, so you have to assume it like that, right? And take it for granted. It has to come. 5 minutes or 15 minutes, it will come.
Correct.
Right? That is the right way to manifest. It's not that you shouldn't have expectations. It's that you should learn when your expectations are not met, how to handle the disappointment.
Correct.
That's the problem.
Right.
You're saying, I don't know how to handle my disappointment, so I will not expect.
That's a good point. Right.
And that's a wrong mindset. Right. So, I don't like Bangalore traffic, so I won't drive a car. No, I'll shift to Mysore and drive.
Right. Makes sense. Yeah. Okay, that is a nice point. So basically, it's not about not having expectations, it's about being able to manage disappointment.
Yeah. You make yourself good at managing disappointments, and once you don't fear disappointments, you have very strong expectations. You become a good manifestor, right?
Right.
So have expectations, have the best, amazing expectations. By the way, some people who've been through tough times in their life, they will very often come and tell you, I had given up. right? But my mother had so much faith in me. Or my wife had more faith in me than I had. And because of their strength, because of their expectation that I will recover, right? I came through.
No, that's such a good point.
Right? If they had given up, I would be dead right now.
No, I think that's such a valid point, because for me, it's my mother had such a strong faith in any time when things went wrong. The one thing that she would tell me is, I know you're going to get through this. I didn't know that I would get through it. I didn't think that I could get through it. And anytime anything went wrong, the first thing she still does that. The one thing that I know is, you are going to get through it. And that, like, okay, am I going to get through this? That's a great point. So now that you mentioned it, how did you learn to deal with disappointment? Is there something that happened, something that you experienced? Is there a phase that somebody learned through it?
Okay, so most of the things, I've learned through my mentors, but this specific thing, especially dealing with the pain of losing a loved one, I learned when my father passed away. So this is in 2019. So he was a government doctor in Bihar, right? And he only worked for the service of people, never did a private clinic or anything like that, only in the government service. He was being awarded by the WHO and stuff. But he had heart issues, right? So he had a heart attack 9 years ago. But that day he was completely fine. He went on duty, saw all his patients, like government doctor, like 300 to 500 patients a day, right? And then he came back, he went to sleep. He just didn't wake up the next morning. He didn't even move. It was a massive heart attack while he was asleep. And I spoken to him last night. In the morning, I get a call from his mother that he's not moving, right? And imagine how traumatic that must be. And so I booked a flight and went back there. And so there were many thoughts that I had to deal with after that. But it also inspired something in me, right? When I saw him kept in the government hospital and so many people lined up to pay their respects, right? The district magistrate came there because he knew like what this man was. It was there in the newspaper. I was like, I want something like this. That was one of the triggers why I moved from like an e-commerce business to this, because I am not I can't help people, but I can do this, right? So coming to the core of that, when somebody goes through a very tough experience, you really only have two choices. Choice number one, you can create a story of pity around it. Which means the way you say it, other people will react like that. They'll give you pity. So you're like, I had this, I did this. And nobody says that your pain is invalid. They'll pity you. Oh my God, you went through so much. Yes, whenever you need support, you tell me. You're amplifying your pity. It's pity, 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 pity. Yes. And it's decided by how you say it. Your expression, your physiology, all of that. That's one option where 90% of people immediately go to. Right? Because they feel supported with the pity. Now, the second option is, you can build a story of inspiration, right? And that's by choice. You know that person, so many people we know doesn't have a leg, climbed Mount Everest, right? So, all of these stories, it comes from people who will use their disadvantage to inspire others, right? And so they would be like, this happened to me, but they will come back to you and tell me, can you even guess? I am just back from Mount Everest. You'll be like, wow, yes. Because of the way he's saying it. If you can talk about your trauma. I was bullied in school. My face was put in the toilet and you laugh about it. The people will be like, you're so strong. Yes. They'll be like, what the hell am I doing with my life? Yes. You've been through all that. And you're like this. They'll now get inspired by you. But it starts with you. So you can build a story of inspiration. It takes time, support and effort. Or you can stick to a story of pity. Right?
Makes so much sense. That's so well said, and that's so profound. The story of inspiration and the story of pity. Because yes, a lot of people, I think, the story of pity somewhere brings. I think they stick to the story of pity because somewhere they feel like they're going to bring more people together. It gives them a connection. But the story of inspiration is what moves the world, I guess. Pretty cool. So I'm just this one on the time. The time is 11:15. So. Let's do this. First thing is, if you guys are loving this conversation that we are having, let me know not in the chat box, in the comment section. The comment section. So used to saying chat box. Let me know in the comment section if you're loving this conversation, because, Ankit has to catch his flight, even though he's in the present. He's not going to be in quite some time. So let me know in the comment section if you'd like to continue this conversation, because the next time I meet him, I'm going to continue this conversation. But Ankit, I would love to actually sit with you and talk 100%. For such a long time, but today we have to wrap this up. To close the conversation today, is there something that you would like to leave the people with? The concept is to rise as a superhuman. So if somebody has to build a superhuman version of themselves, first is who is a superhuman according to you, and how does one become a superhuman?
So I feel like without detaching from the expectations of everybody else, when you decide what you want to do with your life,
Right.
it's called finding your purpose. It's your decision.
Right.
And you later realize, oh, it was my purpose. Right. So when you find that, that, and you put yourself into that, that is a true superhuman. That's where a true superhuman is born. That's what I feel.
So somebody who's made a decision, is that what you're saying?
Somebody who's made a decision internally that I want to do this rather than affected by their parents or the environment, or you should get an IT job, this, that. So they're starting to find their purpose.
Right.
And that's where your full superhuman potential has the option of coming out. Right. Now there's nobody. I can't blame my dad. You forced me to take biology. Right. So now it's my responsibility, and it starts bringing out that superhuman in there. Right. But one advice if I can give is that always consider that whatever has happened for the good, no matter how bad, right? And you'll be able to find the good behind it later. When iron goes through a furnace, it comes out as steel.
Right.
You're becoming steel, right? So the idea is, if you went through something bad, just ask yourself, if there is an angel looking after me, what would they want me to learn from this?
Right.
Like, why did they make it happen, this bad thing, and what do they want me to learn from this?
Beautiful. To push this a little.
Okay.
Now you spoke about what is the good in this, and now you made a decision to go towards what you want.
Yeah.
But is it true and possible that somebody is actually being held back by somebody else? Let's say if there is a person who really genuinely wants to grow, and let's say this family is not letting this person out of the house. Let's assume that for a minute. To be true, to be actually true. In that case, what?
So I'll tell you one thing. When there is a physical barrier, there is no getting around it, right? If somebody puts you in chains, I mean, they are being a hurdle in your growth.
Right.
Somebody is locking you in the house, they are being a hurdle in your growth. So that will require physical effort to open, right? So you run away from the house, you call the police, and you take legal action. So physical, that is. But if you talk about the mindset part, there are two ways to look at it. One way is, even if somebody is being a barrier in your growth, by being negative, by saying things to you, if you tell yourself, they're really only making me stronger, right? Then you build that mindset of, I can still work. For example, the story that it reminds me of is the US prisoners who were in Vietnam, right? Some of them literally counted rice, kept it in their pockets, ate some a day, because they said, nobody can break me. Yes. And this experience is making me so strong. When I get back to the US, I'll be the, strongest Marine over there. Yes. All of that. So they made that decision. They thought of it like that, and they would, in grains of rice, counted grains of rice, they would survive. So it's like that. If you decide this person is doing this for my, gain, and that's a very Hindu religious path as well, right? That I'm learning from this experience. All of this is making me stronger. It will open up your mind towards doing things that will help you make progress. Now, if you are in the house, coming to the second part of it, if you're in the house, you can't go out. There is also the option to adapt. Right? So it reminds me of the Secret Superstar, right? So it's adaptation, keeping those limitations if you really can't fight against it, and still bringing out your full potential.
Got it.
Right? So there, even in British India, there were many ways in which people did good work to protest against the British. Right? So it's that kind of mindset. I will have the limitations, fine. You can't still stop me from being who I am. Right? I'll do my best work here itself. Right? So that's one other option.
That's pretty cool. So thank you so much for stating that. Now, if somebody has to connect with you, if somebody has to be a part of more such learning from you, how do they connect with you?
So you can just go to ankitneerav.com. Right. It's not a very good website right now, but I recently met Deepak Kanakraju. Yes, he's helping me redesign it and do it well. But you'll find the link. You can join my free scientific manifestation masterclass to learn all of this in more depth.
Pretty cool. So the link will be attached somewhere below. Take a look at it. And again, like I said, the more you want Ankit back, let us know in the chat box. I'll make sure that the next time the conversation is not going to be based on a time limit, but it's going to be based on till we finish the conversation, when we're done with the conversation. But he's had to leave today, so I don't want to push it, and I don't want him to stress out later, because he's a very calm guy. And Swastik should not be the reason where he makes a decision to start stressing out. But
I'm not stressing out.
Okay, thank you so much, Ankit. It was lovely having you. Such a beautiful conversation, such a lovely energy. And you just lighten up the room, and so nice to see you, and so nice to have met you.
Thank you so much, and thanks to everybody watching this. I mean, I never take this for granted. This is me living my dream life, and every person watching, listening to me makes it possible. So lots of gratitude to everybody. Thank you so much.
Superb. Thank you so much.